everybody. It's been a while, hasn't it? Oh, yeah, it's been a while since I've gone live. It's been a very, very busy spring with clinics and events and private coaching here and workshops here at the ranch. So it has been very busy. And now we're in middle of summer, everything has calmed down because it's too hot. So I'm taking this opportunity to come back into the group with focusing on topics on our relationships with our horses, and yeah, I'm bringing hopefully a live to you each week based on what we've been talking about. So I'm really pleased to be here again. One of the things that I really enjoy about these conversations, these live conversations, is that they're not about teaching. They're more about thinking. That's what I would like for this this time that I spend here live, is to create thought. And one of the things that I've been thinking about a lot recently is the pain and behavior conversation, which is, if you would have noticed a lot of the posts, and if you have seen the video over on YouTube, if not, go over there and watch that. Not now, after you've watched this or you've spent this time with me, and subscribe as well, because I will be again putting up a lot more information there as it becomes a hub for my voice, if you like. So we've spent a lot of time, like I said, talking about pain and behavior. And it's one of those topics that always seems to split opinion. There's definitely two camps. There's those that say when a horse is presenting with a certain characteristics, they say it's pain. And then there are those that say, no, it's behavior. And the more I think about it, I don't think any of that is particularly helpful. Either one is not wrong. It's not like one is right and one is wrong. And that is where the dilemma is. And I don't think that the separation of those two is where the interesting part begins. I think it's interesting to me that we look at it as a linking possibility between those two polarized camps, if you like. But what I want to talk about here today is not so much the pain or behavior conversation, dialogue. It is more about what is the horse expecting to happen next. And I've been sitting with that question now for a few days. Not what is the horse doing, but what is the horse expecting? And I think this is a quiet conversation that runs underneath the pain and behavior camps. Keep using that word, but that dialogue, that conversation. Because if I expect something painful every time I see something, by the time that something gets closer and closer, my body has already started to prepare for the pain that I'm expecting. And I think, to give it an example, and I'll go into more detail in this, but an example is saddling. Often saddling gets labeled within those two camps. It's pain or it's behavior. But if you can imagine, every time a horse sees the saddle, and if they're expecting that saddle to hurt, then their body starts preparing, and that body then gets into a spiral of tension. Tension creates pain, pain creates tension, and tension creates pain, etc., etc. But if we think about it, the reaction doesn't start with the saddle arriving. It begins when it is noticed. And I think that's quite a different way of looking at behavior. And I want to share with you a story, an experience that I had with a mare and her new owners, where they contacted me because they were really struggling with this mare, beautiful bay mare. Um, they were really having a difficult time saddling her and getting on. But once they were on and riding, she was wonderful. She would trail ride beautifully. She was confident. She was forward. She was relaxed. She was everything that they hoped that she would be. But getting to that point was a struggle every time. So that's why they contacted me. Now, I could have looked at it really simply and said, well, she's difficult around saddling. Push through it, ignore it. But that obviously is not my way, and that is not something that I would do. I'm far too curious for that. I'm far too investigative for that. So we started asking questions instead. We looked into her history because one thing I'd noticed on this mare is that she had quite a few white hairs on her withers, which is a clue. So we got our detective hats on, and what we discovered was that during her first saddling experience, when she was started under saddle, it was really painful for her. The saddle didn't fit, not slightly, it was painful. And over time, she had created an association with this experience, and the pressure of the saddle had created these white hairs where it became permanently damaged. The follicles became permanently damaged. So it was a clue. There's clues everywhere to our horse's behavior. And they in turn obviously became part of this story. Now, this is what really is interesting to me and stay with me, is that by the time I met her, the pain had gone. There was no pain. She had a saddle that fitted her beautifully. The new people had gone down and got her a beautiful saddle. She had the correct treatment by the professionals, vet, chiropractor, you name it. But the association with the saddle was the interesting link. Because what had happened is the pain had gone, the source of the pain had gone, but the expectation hadn't. And I think that's something that we miss. We miss thinking it through. And I wonder this week whether sometimes expect trust to return, that we expect trust to return at the same speed that the body heals. And I wonder, are we asking too much when we expect that? If every saddling that she'd ever known had hurt, why would the expectation, even though the pain had gone, why would the expectation have gone? Why would one comfortable saddling completely change her expectation? Maybe it shouldn't. Maybe trust has its own rhythm. And maybe it grows quietly through lots of small moments that slowly tell a different story. And that's what we did. We built up small moments, positive moments, that she could slowly switch the balance between the expectation of pain with the expectation of a great adventure. I don't think horses hold grudges. I don't think they're trying to make our lives difficult, but I do think they become very good at predicting what experience has taught them. What is going to happen next has become a running theme through their lives. When you think about it, what makes perfect sense for a prey animal is their survival depends on noticing patterns. And if pain has become part of the pattern, then the expectation arrives before the pain ever does. And then I found myself wondering about something else. I wonder if we're all a little bit like that. I wonder how many expectations we carry without even realizing it. Maybe we've had a difficult conversation before, so we expect the next one to go badly. Maybe we've had a frightening experience, so our body prepares before anything else can actually happen. Perhaps this isn't only a horse conversation. Perhaps it's a conversation about being alive. I don't know. I'm still thinking about it. I would really love to know what you think. Have you ever noticed your horse expecting something before it actually happened? Not necessarily because the thing was still painful or negative, but because previous experiences have taught them to prepare for it. Or maybe you've noticed it in yourself. Maybe you've noticed it within a dialogue, as, for example, the bay mare got more anxious and tense, the people got more anxious and tense, then it becomes a never-ending story. I'd love to hear your stories, because honestly, I think we learn so much from each other as we do from our own horses. So I hope you've enjoyed sitting with this idea this week. I have. Probably not found any answers yet, but then it's a lifelong journey that we're on. But I certainly think that we found better questions, which is the start, right? Sometimes that might be enough. That might be the catalyst, finding better questions to ask. So thank you for spending this time with me. If you're watching on replay, I'd still love you to join the conversation. I'd still love your comments in the comment box. I'd love to read them. So thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe so that you're notified when the next episode's up. Take care. Bye for now.